Welcome to the month of October and welcome to the first edition of my video diary. I want to use this opportunity to say happy Independence Anniversary to all of you, my listeners. Yes, on the 1st of October, we celebrated the 65th Independence Anniversary of this country, the day we got our independence. So it was a national holiday. And on that day, the president made a national broadcast to congratulate Nigerians for this important occasion. And also he used the opportunity to read out the scorecard of his administration. He was able to read out about 16 landmark achievements or initiatives or innovations of his administration. And he was able to score his administration a big pass mark. Yes, as far as he was concerned, they have been doing very well as an administration and things are getting better. Well, I am not sure many people will share in that view. I am not sure many Nigerians will agree with that assessment. In fact, shortly after the broadcast, the opposition party dismissed the whole thing as false and fictitious. They say the president told lies to the nation, that there is no reasonable progress or success story behind this administration. And I think many Nigerians will agree with that assessment. I mean, the assessment of the opposition. A day before the anniversary, I wished one of my colleagues happy independence. And she frowned. She didn't accept it. In fact, as far as she was concerned, there is nothing to celebrate. Nigeria is not a success story. So the celebration is uncalled for. Well, there may be a merit in her own opinion. Just early this week, precisely on Sunday, I had a health talk with the Christian Association of Nigeria, CAN, in Kaura Namoda. I talked about know your numbers, and I tried to call the attention of the participants to the importance of regular medical checkup to be able to detect some underlying medical conditions responsible for some of the sudden unexpected deaths that we have been witnessing in recent times. A lot of people are dying suddenly without warning, and some of them are due to underlying causes, undetected, undiagnosed. So in the course of that presentation, I talked about life expectancy and I gave statistics around the world. I gave the global average, I gave the West African average, and then I gave Nigeria average. And you discover that Nigeria, with the life expectancy of around 53 years, is one of the worst in the whole world. In fact, Nigeria has the worst life expectancy. We are better than only one country, that is Chad. So that is not a good story. In fact, we are about 10 years below the average for West African sub-region. And we are about 2 decades, 20 years below the global average of 73 years. So that is not a good number at all for Nigeria. And I was able to identify some of the reasons why Nigeria has such a poor health indices. In Nigeria, we have widespread poverty and underdevelopment. Poverty is a risk factor for early deaths, for timely deaths. We talk about malnutrition and food insecurity. In fact, in the past 2 years, the food insecurity has worsened because family incomes have dwindled. Many families are just scratching and aching out a living, struggling to survive. And that is enough to cut short the life of many. We have still infectious diseases. Almost all the infectious diseases we have been battling with, they are still with us, including the age-old malaria is still a killer in Nigeria. We talk about high infant mortality and maternal mortality. Nigeria still has one of the worst infant mortality rates in the world. Nigeria is actually a dangerous place for a woman to get pregnant because the maternal mortality is unacceptably very high. Then we talk about the internal conflicts. A lot of conflict. We're not at war with any nation, it's within the country. We have a lot of conflict, crisis, ethnic violence, sometimes farmers headers clashes. Then I'm going to talk about the banditry and the kidnapping for ransom. People will kidnap, collect ransom, and still kill the victim. They will have killing for rituals. They're so common. You know, people are being wasted. Nigerians are being wasted on a daily basis. So these are the things claiming the lives of Nigerians. Then how about the poor health systems? The health systems is not adequate and responsive to meet the needs of Nigerians. So these are factors, some of the factors that contribute to the reduction in longevity and reduction in the life expectancy in Nigeria. Now, to buttress the deplorable state of the reality called Nigeria, the reality of life in Nigeria, to buttress how sordid, how deplorable, and how bad things are in Nigeria, I am going to narrate two stories, things that happened within the last 1 week or so. Within the last 1 week or so, I'm going to narrate two stories. One of them was posted on our WhatsApp group, the group of my classmates from medical school. We call it Links WhatsApp group. So somebody posted an excerpt from somebody's social media posting. It was somebody lamenting about the negative, nasty, ugly experience they had at the University Teaching Hospital where we trained. The University of Nigeria Teaching Hospital where we trained. Now, what actually happened was that the sister was involved in road traffic accident and it was serious. She sustained serious injury. I think she ruptured a viscous, that is an internal organ, either a spleen or the liver was ruptured and she was bleeding. She needed instant attention and intervention, blood transfusion, of course. So they rushed her to the nearest hospital, which was the orthopedic hospital. So when the orthopedic hospital assessed her, they said, it's not our case. It has nothing to do with bones. Go to another hospital. So they rushed her to another hospital. And those ones, yes, it is their case. It's a specialist hospital. But they said, we are renovating our accident and emergency unit, so we can't attend to her. So they turned them away. So they ended up at the teaching hospital, UNTH. And that is where their ordeal began. They started encountering all sorts of roadblocks, delays, and excuses. They are being tossed to and fro. Go there, buy a car, do this one. And by the time they are able to put their acts together, the lady was gone. She died. So that matter came up for discussion. Of course, the man was bitter against the teaching hospital. And he wrote, and he poured out his frustration and anger at the way they were treated. So, yes, we discussed it and we agreed that definitely it is the system problem that led to the death of that lady. It's not just a medical condition, it is treatable. She could be salvaged if the system had responded. So we acknowledge that we have an unresponsive health system, a system that will not be able to help you when you are in need. I remember one of my professors saying that if you have a real emergency in Nigeria, medical emergency, and your life depends on the intervention of the health system, he said if you survive, it's because it's not your time to die. It's because God is still on your side and not because of the health system. That's what he said. So also we acknowledge the insensitivity of the health workers, because one of the things that was prominent in the narrative was the lackadaisical attitude of the health workers, beginning from the gate man to the attendant, to the porter, to the orderly, to the nurses, to the lab scientists, to the doctors. The attitude was very poor, and it's quite surprising. The health facility is where you expect empathy, care, and concern. But that is not what you will see in Nigerian hospitals, especially the public hospitals. So there's lack of interest, lack of concern, lack of empathy and sympathy. They also will recognize the low value on human life and human dignity in the health system and in other systems, other sectors of the economy. There is little or no value on human life. The dignity of man is not being respected in this country. So the conclusion we came to is that Nigeria happened to her. That lady. Nigeria happened to her. Now the second case happened just a few days ago on the 29th of September, just 2 days before the independence anniversary. It was the story of Sontoshukwu Madiago. She was a 24-year-old news anchor with Arise TV. She was a lawyer by profession, but she was a former beauty queen. She schooled in UK and came back. You see, why people were immigrating to UK, she came back to help her country, to contribute her own quota, to develop her own fatherland. So on that 29th day, that fateful day, her residence came under attack by armed robbers in the dead of the night. They sent a distress call to the police. The police did not respond until the armed robbers had finished and gone. So while the attack was ongoing, in her panic, she jumped from the balcony of her flat. She was on the third floor, I think, and she jumped down to a hard surface down there, and she sustained very serious injuries. Eventually, when the police came, she pleaded with them to rush her to the hospital, but they refused. According to the report, they refused. So eventually, it was a good Samaritan, a neighbor, who rushed her to the hospital. And when they got to the hospital, they made another roadblock. The hospital refused to attend to her, insisting proper identification, proper documentation, and other protocols. And because of doing that, she died. She didn't make it. And you know the interesting thing? Some few days before this incident, she raised a prayer point. She prayed. I think either in her news medium, or that is her TV news medium, or through her social media handle. She prayed, may Nigeria not happen to me. So unfortunately, her prayer was not answered. Nigeria happened to her. So that is why today I want to talk about that phenomenon of when Nigeria happens to you, what it means, the implication of when Nigeria happens to you. Well, that is a catchphrase that has gained traction, especially in the social media and among the young people. It is used in skits, in contents, and in discussions. And it simply means when you encounter, experience, and you are affected by the dysfunction and chaos that characterize the Nigerian system. That's what it means. A collection of dysfunctions and disorder and unpredictability and chaos that you encounter in Nigeria. And it's often fatal. When Nigeria happens to you, normally it's fatal. People don't survive it. Those who survive, they survive with disability, debility, and damages. So that's why people pray and wish for themselves and for their loved ones that Nigeria should not happen to them. So I want to describe that dysfunctional system. How do it manifest? What are the characteristics or the symptoms or the evidences when you describe Nigeria, that Nigeria? What are the faces of that Nigeria that people don't want to encounter? Number one, when you talk about the frequent power outages, that is Nigeria happening. Power outages is very, very disheartening that many parts of this country they can boast of 2 hours of uninterrupted power supply. You cannot rely on the power supply from the national grid. National grid has become an alternative power supply. Everybody is looking for their own power supply, generating their own power. It's not what you see in other countries. Other countries, they don't know what is power outage. They don't know what is power failure. But in Nigeria, it's a different story that even in the government house, they have to do for alternative power supply. Even the federal government, even at the seat of power, that is a dysfunctional system. Are you talking about poor road infrastructure? Traveling in Nigeria is an ordeal. In the last month, I embarked on a journey to another state. It was an ordeal. A journey that should have taken maybe 10 to 12 hours. It took me 2 to 3 days. That journey took me 2 to 3 days. Not many thanks to the poor road infrastructure, bad roads. That is the daily experience of Nigerians. I will going to talk about academic disruptions due to incessant strikes affecting the higher institutions. I will going to talk about the police extortion that you meet on the road. Every part of the country is the same story. Police is known for extortion and corruption. Are you going to talk about institutional corruption? It's corruption that has become institutionalized. It has become a norm. It has been accepted. It is expected and it's accepted. That is Nigeria. Are you going to talk about inflation of contract values? Something that can be done by with 10,000 naira in Nigeria, it may cost as much as 10 times. And yet, you don't get the value for your money. The contract must be inflated. So many people to settle. That is the situation in Nigeria. Are you going to talk about poor maintenance of public facilities? You see decay in public infrastructure, decay and decadence everywhere. No maintenance culture. Are you going to talk about the insecurity and the lack of respect for human lives? Insecurity, every part of the country. Nowhere is safe. Nowhere is safe. In the east, in the west, north and south, in the day, in the night. Traveling in the Nigerian roads is a risk, big risk. Days before you travel, you have to pray and fast. For you to move from point A to point B, you have to pray and fast. That is how bad situations are in Nigeria. Are we going to talk about the loss of sovereign control? As if the state has lost control. Because so we have a lot of non-state actors on the stage, calling the shots, dictating. Sometimes you hear that a whole local government is under bandits and terrorists. Where is the government? Where is the government? We have militia, we have gangs, we have a lot of non-state actors in this country. A lot of them. Every part of the country have one group in operation. So that is a sign of a systemic failure. Are you going to talk about ineffective bureaucracy? That to get things done in Nigeria is an uphill task. To get things done, to do business with government is an uphill task. So that is it. Are you going to talk about the distrust of citizens on the legitimacy of the government? Citizens have lost faith. Lost faith. They don't believe in the processes that lead to the election of their leaders. An average Nigerian don't believe that the vote they casted counted. They don't believe it. They believe that the people that are there are illegitimate. It's not by the will of the people. They rig themselves into power. And many times it is the truth. Many times it is the reality. So are you going to talk about internal displacement of citizens? For years now, we have been having IDPs in this country, people being displaced. Many people have lost their ancestral homes and they're living like refugees in their own country, in their own state. They don't have access to their houses, to their farmlands, to their ancestral homes. They've been displaced. They've been displaced. That is a sign of a systemic failure. Are you going to talk about the deterioration of public infrastructures like healthcare and education? You see that most of the politicians, the political class, they don't use the health facilities in the country. Right from the presidents to the governors, when they have medical need, they go abroad. They don't trust the system that they are presiding over. They don't trust them. Can you imagine the UK Prime Minister or US President having health challenge and he cannot go to the hospital in his own country? But Nigeria the reverse is the case. Most of our leaders, their children are not schooling in the country; they are abroad. They are schooling abroad. Why? Because of the decay in the public schools. These are all symptoms and evidences or manifestations of systemic decay. What are the cultural impacts when we say Nigeria happens to people? It has formed a mindset, especially of the youth. It's a language of the youth. They use it to express their disillusionment and their frustration and their loss of faith in the Nigerians' future prospect. You see, many of our youth, they don't believe in Nigeria anymore. They don't see any good. They don't have any hope. Hopelessness, which is not a good thing. Not a good thing. Also, it has a global resonance. Many Nigerians have left a lot. They left in droves in the past 2-3 years. Or let me say 3-4 years. Nigerians left in droves. They are abroad. And they are making comparison. And they have seen the difference. So it's even becoming more glaring how messed up the country is. When they go to countries where things are working, when the systems are working, when things are predictable, then they compare to Nigeria, they see that our case is bad. So that is how bad. So it has a global resonance. And it's not embedded in storytelling, in the content people create, in the skits they make, in political discourse, in commentaries. Is there. That is the language that Nigeria happens to people. That is it. Nigeria happens to people. Nigeria has become a phenomenon that happens to people. Now, let me try to do a kind of diagnosis to get to the anatomy. What could be responsible, or what are the factors responsible for this phenomenon? Why has Nigeria become a phenomenon? Well, there are many causes, underlying causes, root causes. There are root causes, of course. Some people may blame it to the colonial legacy, but a lot of people feel that Nigerian problem started from the foundation, and there may be a pinch of truth in it because if the foundation is faulty, you can never build anything sound and solid. So the foundation of Nigeria was not correct. Nigeria was built not to serve the people, but to serve the interests of the colonial masters. That's where the problem began. The Nigerian system was built to serve the interests of the colonial masters. Now, when the colonial masters have left, the system has not been able to adapt and update itself to serve the people of Nigeria. So it is still struggling. That is one explanation. Then we also have long, interventions of the military into the Nigerian experiment. When independence came, democracy came, and the First Republic was wobbling and struggling, trying to find their footing. The military struck. In that chaos and confusion, they struck. And the military has been interfering with the process of building Nigeria. It's only recently, as we celebrated 65 years of independence, we are also celebrating 25 years of uninterrupted democracy. So for 25 years now, we have been trying to experiment with democracy to see where it's leading us to. But in the past, we have not had that privilege. There have been interruptions. So that somehow has affected because military has its own baggage. Military causes disruption and confusion. Then, of course, visionless leadership. It boils down to it, leadership. We have not got real patriotic, selfless leaders. Leaders that are patriots, statesmen. We have not got them. Most of our leaders are selfish and short-sighted, covetous, and they don't have the interest of the country at heart. So it's one of the reasons. And because of that, that mindset has actually spread from the leaders to the people. We have also over-centralization of power. The federal government is too powerful, too strong. The subnationals are not strong. They don't exert as much influence as the federal government. The federal might is so strong, so powerful. The center is so strong. And when you have corrupt people at that center, it spells doom for the rest of the subnationals. Then, of course, frequent policy changes. Yes, we are lucky in Nigeria. We have regular elections. Almost every 4 years, there must be election, and there must be a handover of power. So it has been consistent, as I said, for the past 25 years. But the unfortunate thing is that sometimes the incoming government does not sustain the policy of the previous one. So such frequent changes of government will not help a system to evolve and to be built. Then, of course, the pervasive corruption is there. Everything boils down to corruption, corrupt people. Nigerians are corrupt at every level, not just at the top. Yes, the head is sick, but the whole body is also affected. There's rottenness in the bones. An average Nigerian is not patriotic. An average Nigerian is not patriotic. An average Nigerian will always look for a way to subvert the system, to change the system, to enrich himself. That is the reality of Nigeria. Then we also have weak rule of law. Very important. We have a weak rule of law. Because our judiciary are weak and compromised. The politicians have compromised the judiciary, corrupted it. So because of that, it is difficult to enforce laws. It's easy to subvert laws. Actions don't have consequences. People get away with crime. People get away with corruption. People get away with anomalies. Nobody is called to question. That is one of the reasons. It's not as if Nigerians are worse than the rest of the world. But in most countries, actions have consequences. If you commit a crime, you pay for it. Recently, we are hearing about former presidents being indicted, being sentenced, and being thrown into prison because of what they did when in office. Such things are not so common in Nigeria. Even when people are accused and brought to court, eventually they wangle their way through because of corrupt system. So because people benefit from corruption, benefit from illegality, benefit from crime, they continue. They continue in it and they continue to perpetrate it. Then we have poverty, of course, poverty and inequality. The level of inequality in Nigeria is quite much. The gap between the rich and the poor is very wide. The difference between the haves and the have-not is very much. You see people very, very rich, extremely rich. You see people very, very poor. And that is not, it doesn't help a society. It will definitely lead to chaos and disorder. Inequality is not good for the society. Then I talk about low public trust. People don't trust the system. People don't believe in the system. People don't believe in the institutions. Nigerians don't trust the system. If the government says something, they want to believe that the opposite is true. And many times our politicians are not straightforward. They have known to be liars. So people don't believe what they say. So these are some of the things. Of course, with this issue of ethnic and religious divisions, we have a very big fault line. Ethnic and religion is strong and it's divisive. It polarizes the country. It breeds distrust and suspicion and all that. So it makes it difficult to fight corruption because once this person is on our side, you have our sympathy because he's our person, whether he's corrupt or not. Even though he's corrupt, because he's one of us, we look the other way. We condone his misbehavior. So that's ethnic and religious sentiment is a problem for Nigeria. Then finally, we talk about normalization of dysfunction. You see, that's the big umbrella. Normalization of dysfunction. Nigeria has come to accept the status quo. We can shrug our shoulder and go our way. We can't ask questions. We don't hold our leaders to account. We don't, the public do not seek accountability from their leaders. So we have accepted abnormal as normal. We have normalized it. And that is the biggest problem in Nigeria. That's the biggest problem. So, can I afford or can I risk to make recommendations? The way forward, if you ask me, what can be done for Nigeria? Or what can be done about Nigeria? How can Nigeria be salvaged? Is there hope? Well, there is hope. And it will start with strengthening public institutions. That's the first thing. Or one of the main things, to strengthen public institutions. I remember one US president talking about Africa. He said, we don't need strong men. We need strong institutions. In Africa, in Nigeria, we have strong people and weak institutions. That has to change because society will not thrive under such economy. We need strong institutions. We also need to enforce consequences. It must come to that actions must have consequences. And people must answer for their deeds. People must answer for their errors. People must answer for their crime. People must answer for their corruption. It must come to that. If we can't punish crime, then we are getting nowhere. We are getting nowhere. Then there's need to digitize governance. Digitize governance. In this digital era, we should make governance to become digital. It will go a long way. It will go a long way to minimize corruption, so that automation will take place. So you don't need to interface with human beings. You interface with machine. Automation. It will eliminate institutional corruption that is pervasive in many public offices. Then we need to raise quality leadership. You have to start building from the scratch. You have to start raising leaders in the next generation. It's important. You have to give people the leadership qualities. leadership mindset. You have to train them from the scratch, from the schools, from the homes, from the churches, religious bodies. You have to start inculcating values in people. What it means to be human, what it means to be responsible. It has to be built. You have to configure the mindset of Nigeria. It's important, especially the young ones. Civic education and cultural renewal must be inculcated. It should be part of the school curriculum. It should be part of the family curriculum. That should be like an agenda. It must be made a national project or developmental plan. The way governments have 5 years, 10 years, 15 years developmental plan, such a thing should be introduced into our school system, into the young people. These are some of the things. Of course, it's going to require concerted efforts. It's going to be an agreed consensus. We have to come to a point where we say things have to change. And we must agree as a people that change must come. So, what is my own contribution? Is there anything I can do as a person? I think so. I'm already involved in youth ministry. I'm working with young people. So I must take that my work serious. It's a national assignment, and it's also a mission from God. Mentorship and training, leadership training. So it's not just we are doing church with my young people. I'm not just doing church with them. I am training the next generation. I'm raising them up. So I have to give more time, more energy, more creativity, more initiative into my youth ministry, into the work I'm doing with the young people. We need to empower them. Empowerment and education. I believe in education. And education is not just to get certificates, but to learn values, to get skill, leadership skill, life skills. I have to pay attention to this. I have to continue doing that, investing in young people, pouring my life into them. Of course, it also takes prayer. Nigerian problem, we take prayer. Yes, we pray now. We do pray. Nigeria is one of the most prayerful countries. I think Nigeria should be the most prayerful country. We talk about prayers. There are prayer groups, prayer cells, prayer meetings, prayer conferences, almost on daily basis, day and night. Prayers are going on. I don't want to denigrate the importance of prayer or the power of prayer. It is prayer that has brought us, that has kept the country. Get it clear. I am not denouncing the power of prayer. I believe. But I'm not saying we should pray less. I say we should pray more. Effective fervent prayer. We will continue praying for a new Nigeria. Yes. Then also faith. As we pray, we believe our prayers. Prayer has helped us in the past, and prayer will still help us in the future. So prayer of faith shall heal a sick country. So we pray and we believe. And we remain optimistic. I still believe in the Nigerian project. I still believe Nigeria can still be great. And I will continue to work towards that, to make Nigeria great. So that is the project before me. But meanwhile, I will still join in that prayer for myself and for you. May Nigeria not happen to you. Hear our prayer, O God. Thank you very much.